Still staying in the region, let's talk a bit more about Japan's critical role in maintaining peace and security as well as stability in the Indo-Pacific and what that means for Taiwan. With me here today is Professor Watanabe Tsuneo, Senior Fellow of the Security Studies Program at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Thank you very much for coming on our show today, Professor.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Some say time is limited in terms of what China is thinking in terms of Taiwan, and there's a lot of talk in Japan about a Taiwan contingency. What do you say to this close coordination? Is it in time to prevent and deter China from taking aggressive action?
You know, that's very important. By the way, that's not only for China, but also North Korean missile attack too. And I think so far, Japan and U.S., the alliance coordination mechanism has been working not so bad. But we really needed to the more efficient and speeding up, considering potential contingency. So, no, why the U.S. and Japan didn't agree before? Before somehow the hurdle was hard because of Japanese domestic politics. Japanese domestic, some opposition was really worried about some Japan's entrapment of unnecessary warfare.
Has that changed?
Changed because at that time, somehow the position was somehow relatively safe. And for example, North Korea's missile capability was much smaller, and China's military capability was much smaller. I'm talking about before 20 years ago. But it's time to seriously consider the contingency both.
So the Japanese people are okay with that?
Japanese people are now getting support for such kind of the grading up Japan's military role. But you know, that's probably the very big change. That's one of the reasons Japan agree with the United States and asking U.S. to the more coordination, closer coordination, so and command and control.
And given that there will be a leadership change in Washington come January, Donald Trump during his first term did put pressure on Japan to spend more and also talk about having Japan pay more for U.S. troops and U.S. facilities in Japan. Do you feel that could impede Japan's role in securing the Asia-Pacific?
I think basically Japan really need to increase our own defense budget in order to achieve the several capabilities Japan already promised to not only U.S. but Japan's own people. So big challenge is really for the Prime Minister Ishiba is to persuade Japan's diet.
Is there a smart way to pass that and to convince the diet, parliamentarians, and also the people to put that out?
First of all, I think now the Ishiba government doesn't have a majority in lower house. Big trouble. So really need to cooperate with the opposition party. That's one thing. And the public, general public agreed to, for example, when Japan introduced counter-strike capability, that's the purchasing the Tomahawk cruise missile and Japan's own indigenous missile. They agree, people agree. But people don't agree what kind of money. People usually don't like increasing a tax, for example. But Japan's budget is not so good situation, especially worst in OECD country. So really need to the political agreement to what kind of the budget is possible to. And again, the U.S. is pushing a much more budget. Probably.
And that will also influence how Japan will
Right. So that's big challenge. It's possible because people's support for the increasing Japan's defense is clear.
When it comes to the U.S.-Japan alliance, you characterize it as a public good for regional security. And this is why Japan has offered support to the Philippines, and you talked about the importance of maritime security. Do you feel there could be more cooperation with Taiwan in a similar fashion?
Yeah, I think especially, you know, the war happening in the South China Sea is the gray zone challenge by China. I think that challenge has been already in East Asia, China, surrounding Senkaku Island. So that's very important public goods to share with almost all regional players to secure the regional order. And but no, Taiwan definitely the sharing such the interest. But at the same time, Taiwan is not regarded as the state relation with other the partner. So we really need to consider some good way to what kind of the cooperation, especially maritime cooperation between Taiwan and Japan.
You talked about one of the silver linings with a second Trump term, aside from uncertainty that many of U.S. allies feel, is that it actually brings U.S. allies closer together because there might be less commitment from the U.S. to protect allies in the Pacific. Do you feel this will have an impact on Taiwan and the Philippines?
Yeah. I think if next president, Mr. Trump, are not seriously interested in security in Taiwan and East Asia, that's going to be very bad message to China. My sense is that Mr. Trump is really interested in securing U.S. supremacy position. So he is really tried to defeat China in economic terms. But unfortunately, he didn't have any experience in the security area. So he's not aware of security and the economy is so interrelated too. For example, the securing regional stability is a guarantee for the smooth trade and good investment. But anyway, that's the reason that Trump really needed a good surrounding, I think, in administration. And one good news is National Security Advisor, the appointment for the President Trump is Michael Waltz is somehow very rational and the pragmatic, I would say, realist. Same thing applies for the Senator Marco Rubio, who's going to be the next the Secretary of State, also appointed by Mr. Trump.
And a long-time supporter of Taiwan.
Very strong supporter to Taiwan, as well as the sharing the very serious concern of China's challenge, right? So that's very, very good news.
So how worried do you feel Taiwan and the Philippines should be with allies in the cabinet, but with some uncertainty from President Trump?
Especially the Taiwan has a very good advantage. That's your connection with Republican Party, Congress. I think especially the Senate, Republican, still has a lot of the traditional realist compared to the House.
But how would that balance with the executive branch, which Trump is in control of?
Again, in the executive branch, most influential player to the Mr. Trump is a National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. At least two of them was somehow very much interested in and knowledgeable to the Taiwan and the regional security. Really good, strong one. Of course, we cannot expect too much because Trump himself is really showing a little bit more we call the restrainer. That's U.S. should not invest too much for their power to the securing other countries.
You've also mentioned that Donald Trump and his team is more hawkish and very cautious about China, including Trump himself. How do you feel that Japan and also Taiwan and other allies in the region should find the right angle?
Tricky one is depends on who in U.S. Trump administration. Some people are very anti-China in economic sense, trade sense. Some are more security sense. And my sense is more security sense guys in the Trump administration. That's good news. But not so good news is that Trump didn't join such kind of interest too. So I think interaction within the Trump administration would determine what kind of a policy eventually the Trump administration would take. And not so bad. Generally, they are anti-China. They don't want China to be the hegemon in the region. That's good news. Bad news is that some people are more economic interest rather than security interest.
In terms of good news and in terms of the Trump administration, we've seen the Prime Minister of Japan, Ishiba-san sent Nagashima-san to Washington, D.C., and he spent a few days with future nominees that will be in the Trump second administration. Do you feel that is part of this whole trying to find the right balance?
Okay. Aki Nagashima, he's Japan's member of House of Representatives of the Liberal Democratic Party. And he is regarded as a very close friend of Taiwan too. And Mr. Nagashima spent his the graduate work, and also he worked in a think tank, Council on Foreign Relations. So he's regarded as one of the leading security experts of Japan. So, and he already experienced the senior defense minister already. So he's really relied by the American people and Taiwanese people and the Japanese people too. So, and now he is an advisor to Prime Minister Ishiba, and this time he visited Washington, D.C. to make some groundwork. Groundwork means that Trump administration is not yet fixed. So need to talk to many people who could be in Trump administration.
So with that groundwork, do you feel Taiwan was part of that? The message included Taiwan, such as...
Groundwork is interpersonal relations. His policy is already clear. Everybody knows what Aki would say. He's a strong defender of Taiwan, a strong defender of a U.S. Japan alliance. So, but making some network connection is always important too. Aki Nagashima has a lot of already network in Washington, D.C., but warming up, and now I'm in charge for the advisor to Mr. Ishiba. So let's keep in touch and let's share some information. So his work gonna start next January, but groundwork already done.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to talk.